Okay, it's little past time when we're supposed to get started. We're running about 5 minutes late, so we need to get on with our program because we don't have that long. The meeting is not as long this year as it was last year. This is a session on CRaMS, and CRaMS stands for Controlled Resolution and Manipulation System. We will tell you in the very beginning that it's not anything new. It's been used for a very long time, but it's a lot of things that we have forgotten about. Please hold your talking down. In 1999, Tony Oxendine and Jerry Story and I started the Lone Star Callers College. That first year at that school, Jerry asked if he could present his system of calling. No pictures. Just kidding. And we said yes. And so he got up and started talking. And Tony and I had no idea what he was talking about, so we left the room. The following year, Jerry asked if he could do the same thing. We said yes. We still didn't know what he was talking about. The third year, on the way to the school, Jerry was riding with me, and he started talking about it again. And I said, Jerry, I like you as a person, I like you as a caller, but I learned to sight call in 1957, and it was very easy for me to do, and I totally understood what it was, and I've been very successful doing what I was doing. I have no desire to learn anything else. I don't want to learn your system of calling. What have you been drinking, little girl? Ruth, what have you been feeding her? Anyway, but he said, let me ask you something else. He said, while you are sight calling, do you see on the fly, ahead of getting there, a pass-through trade by to an alley mine left? I said, well, sure, I see that all the time. All the time. And use it all the time. He said, if you were to do a slide through before the pass-through, you'd have a right-hand lady line in sequence. And that's when a light turned on for me that is something that we as callers, especially sight callers, had totally forgotten about. I can identify the partner. I can identify my corner. I can identify the opposite lady at any time that I wish. But I had no idea who the right-hand lady was and didn't care. And I realized that was something that we had eliminated out of our calling repertoire. Then I began to understand some of what he was talking about. When he presented his session that year, I understood a little bit more about where he was coming from. Then he said, we need to get more callers to know more about this. Come on, Randy. I should have introduced the panel. I'm sorry. Jerry Story and Randy Dougherty. And for the tape, my name is Jon Jones. This is being recorded, so any comments that we make, we must get them on tape. I started to understand what he was talking about, and he said, how can we get other callers to do some of these types of things? And I said, you have to document it. The first paper he wrote and sent to me, he called Sight Calling on the Fly. And I read the paper, and I didn't understand any more about that paper than I did the first session that he did. And so I told him, I said, this ain't going to work because I don't understand it. So he started working on it some more. Well, in the meantime, Deborah and I got married. And I started talking to her about it. And she will confess to everybody that when she learned to call, She was told that if she didn't become a sight caller really quick and a good sight caller really quick, that she would not be a successful square dance caller and she would not be hired to call anything. So she learned the sight calling method. Did not have the opportunity to learn anything about modules or mental image. Learned very little memory work to start with. She did start with memory, but then switched to sight calling immediately. So then we started talking about this system. Deborah's a very good writer or author. I don't know what word I'm looking for, but she can write stuff really well. And I can read it real good. So Jerry started sending us stuff. Then he started sending it by email. And Deborah and I would look at it and critique it and send it back. And it took 2 years for us to finally get it in the format that you're seeing here today. And it's in a format that is understandable and not really difficult. We first made it too difficult, and now we've backed off of it a ton in what we're doing. I had always wondered how Jerry was able to keep up with squares while he was calling and doing the type of calling that he did, and I can't recall him ever making a mistake. He was always either at home or he never missed his corner, and I thought, what the heck is he doing? Well, in the meantime, somebody at one of our schools posted on the caller chat line, man, you ought to see this CRaMS stuff. Well, it went out and everybody started contacting Jerry and me, wanting to know what in the world are you guys teaching at your caller school. Those of you who knew Bill Peters or who may have heard of Bill Peters, one of the best caller coaches and callers that we've ever had and a fantastic author, he heard about it and he called me on the phone and he said, what are you guys teaching? Well, like I said, Deborah and I hadn't been married long and we hadn't had a real honeymoon, and we told him he knew we were coming over to his place for a week and that was going to be our honeymoon. I said, Bill, it's a whole lot easier to explain in person than it is over the phone or by email. So just wait a couple of weeks and we'll be over there. So I explained it to him. And he said, that's amazing. He said, that's almost exactly the way he learned to call. And we had forgotten about it. The Caller Coach Committee 3 years ago passed a resolution that we have spent too long and too much time training callers to be sight callers. We've put too much emphasis on it and not enough on learning modules and mental image. Bill said we got him in the loop when we were working on this, and everything that we drafted, we sent him a copy. And he would critique it and send it back. And so a lot of his ideas are incorporated in this as well. And he finally made a statement saying that this may be one of the best systems of calling today. This was about a year before he passed away. We are very pleased and happy to have Bill Peters say that about this system of calling. I'm not going to continue talking about it because Randy and Jerry have a lot more in-depth talking about it. Randy called one day and came by the house and spent the night with us, sat down in the didn't get sat down good in the living room, and he said, what is this CRaMS stuff you guys are talking about that he had heard about? So I went and got the paper and I showed it to Randy, and he said this is the way that he learned to call. That he and Jerry learned at about the same time. We're in the same caller school together and started out with this type of calling, and we got away from it with sight calling. We have found that it will add tons to your calling. I had been calling for 45 years when Jerry started talking to me about this. I didn't want to learn anything new. I didn't need to. I was trying to quit. And when I finally saw the light and realized what we have done for so long, and I'm as guilty as anybody of teaching callers to be sight callers, that we have forgotten the really good part of choreography. Not that it's difficult. It's not difficult. But after learning how to do this, 1 week before my 70th birthday, I called an entire mainstream dance and didn't use a single bit of sight calling in the whole evening. I used the CRaMS system the entire dance. Felt real good. The other night at a dance that Deborah and I were calling, she had a plus tip, and then we had a mainstream tip, and then I had a plus tip, and I called the whole plus tip using the CRaMS system. I could see all the squares, but I never looked at one of them. I was looking at the floor or somewhere else most of the time because I had the confidence of what I was doing. It's not something that you'll learn overnight or that you will do overnight. It takes a while. I was adamantly opposed to doing anything with this, and Jerry will tell you that I was, until I finally realized what needed to be done as far as helping other callers. We don't expect anybody to be a convert overnight with this, but please be open-minded about it and listen to what these guys have to say. Here's Randy.
Thank you, John.
That's the remote. Don't use that one. That's Crouch Under.
But your lips have been on this one.
I didn't touch it.
Okay.
I have good mic technique. I hold it out.
Okay.
I don't touch it.
I have also a couple of handouts up here if you're interested. Thank you. You look at CRaMS, and it looks like there's a lot of memorization, and there is in the beginning. But if you just took one setup and learned how to get to that setup and one get out, it wouldn't take you long. Before 6 months, you've got hundreds and hundreds of ways to do setups and get outs. And that's really what it is. The modules that you put in between those things, you're going to develop those as you go. And we're going to give you some neat ones today too. Okay? Basically, when I looked at what Jerry was talking about, he had all kinds of neat get outs, but he had a memory pattern that was 30 calls long. My memory wasn't good enough to memorize all that. So when I would research his material, I would back it up on the tape and backwards find out where he was in a phaser state and then be able to go on. Those of you that don't understand phaser, it's formations, arrangements, sequence, relationships. You can almost forget about formations and arrangements if you're using CRaMS, because the most important part of CRaMS is the last two. A lot more emphasis put on the partner pairing and the sequences. So the one handout that I have, if you look, it says handout number 1 on CRaMS. It says setups. And what I've got listed down the left side is old school of Lloyd Lippmann notation. It says 1P, 2P. We now call that a what? Zero line, right? The next one, it says 2P, 1P. That is just a out of sequence zero line. If you learn just the first 4 stations, which is a zero line, and know how to get to a zero line, on the back side of that, you'll see that there's a get out for that. And we know what it is. It's a slide through square through 3. Anytime you're in a zero line, you know that's one of your get outs. You should. Okay? That's all. I made 25. I'm sure I didn't make enough, it looks like. So you have that as one of your stations, a zero line. I called it 1P, 2P. If you have the same situation, but you have your corner in a line and you're in sequence, it'd be 1C, 2C. Then you have a corner line, and every time you're in a corner line, there's a get out for it. It's on the back side of that little chart that I gave you. And it could be square through 3, look for your corner, Alaman left. Now you're going to develop other ones as you go. But basically there's the 4 line stations that we want. One with the partner, one with the corner, one with the opposite lady, one with the right-hand lady. And if you just start with those 4 and learn those get-outs, how do you get to those, you're going to have a lot of ammunition, artillery, ways to call with purpose instead of just freewheeling it. And that's what CRaMS is all about. If you're going to go to a quarter line, the easiest way to get to the corner line is start with a 0 box and do the call star through. Boom, you're there. Or the easiest way, if you're starting out, 4 ladies chain 3/4. Now you have your corner as a partner. Have the heads lead to the right, circle up 4, make a line, and now you have your corner line. So if you're going to do it with the opposite, have the 4 ladies chain how far? Half, straight across, heads lead to the right, circle up 4, make a line. There's your opposite line in sequence. You're going to get to the right-hand lady. 4 ladies chain how far? 1/4. That gives everybody their right-hand lady. Have the heads lead to the right, circle up 4, make a line. You now have a right-hand lady. And when we first started out, we knew if we were in sequence with the right-hand lady, it was pounded into us on the back side of that page what the get out was. It was a square through 4. I think yours probably says trade by, doesn't it? What we were taught was it was before trade by was written. It was square through 4, give a right to your partner and pull by, Alaman left. That was a right-hand lady in sequence line. If you were out of sequence in a right-hand lady line, the easiest way to get there is put them in a across the street box. Not a lead to the right box, but across the street box, which is heads, star through, pass through. Everyone's looking at the who lady, right-hand lady. Simply star through, and now we have that situation. But they're out of sequence. So instead of square through 4, it's square through how many? 2, reach for your partner, pull by, Alaman left. Once you start with those 4 major lines and then build upon them with being in or out of sequence, then you can go to the next step. If you've got my first handout that says, when I first heard about CRaMS, all of that, don't even read the second page till about another 2 years from now, because it's kind of the advanced CRaMS, okay? How many people call Dixie Grand at a plus dance out here and know the get out and can recognize the setup? Okay? I see we have bibs. Can we get the square bibs up? Okay, we have our square ready to go. The setup that you probably all know to be able to do the Dixie Grand is the heads pass through today and separate and stand behind the sides. So you've got a paired up couple and a mismatched paired out there. Every time I'm calling and I see a little snapshot of this situation, I know I have a Dixie Grand setup. If I call Dixie Grand, I can get there. Okay? Everybody double pass through. Everybody cloverleaf. Do I have a paired and a mispaired? But I need my paired couple what? Inside. Zoom. If I call Dixie Grand now, I need to worry about, am I going to be in or out of sequence? I need to check my bib guy. What are the men? They're out of sequence. Can I call it from here? No. Double pass through. First couple go left, next couple go right. Do a right and left through. Pass through. Wheel and deal. Can I call Dixie Grand from here? Nope. Won't work. Yeah, I can call it. Zoom. How do I get to that setup? You got to be able to snapshot it every time and be able to see that it's there, okay? And sometimes it's hard to see it. Let's have the heads or the centers pass through, swing through. Girls circulate, boys trade, boy run. What kind of a line have I got now? Am I in a right-hand lady line or not? Let's check it out. Bend it. I'm in a what kind of line? Opposite lady line. So I have a get out for opposite lady. It's on this thing. It's on the back. Opposite lady, be 1020. Are they in sequence or out of sequence? So do a right and left through. And the get out I have written on the page is square through 2, trade by, square through 3. Let's try that. Square through 2, trade by, square through 3. Guess who's coming? Alaman left. So as you're sight calling or doing other modules, you got to be on the fly. You're recognizing, when do I have an opposite lady line? When do I have a right-hand lady line? When, and those kinds of things. We're going to get into the right-hand lady line now. Head, star through, pass through, star through. Do I have it? Okay. I know I can get to, we have out of sequence. I'm going to pass the ocean, swing through, boy run, bend the line. Okay, I've got my, what I call the Dixie Grand get out. Do you see it yet? Watch it. Pass through, wheel and deal. I got my paired couple where they're supposed to be. I got my mismatch where they're supposed to be. I'm in sequence. I'm all set to go for the Dixie Grand. Every time I notice on the fly that I have that arrangement, I've got that up there. I want to do Dixie Grand. And you can see that it will work. Write this one down. Every time you have this, this is a neat one for plus people. Watch it. Double pass through. Everyone peel off. Everyone pass through. 3/4 tag, and the crowd goes crazy. Do a right and left grand. So every time I see I can do the Dixie Grand thing, I can add a little bit of spice, because that's another neat little get out. Okay? Now, what if you had your right-hand lady to start this whole sequence with? Check this out. 4 ladies chain a quarter. Everyone's got the right-hand lady. Head positions pass through. Clover leaf. If I do Dixie Grand and I go right, left, right, who am I going to get? I'm going to get who for a new partner? My right-hand lady, because I started with my right-hand lady when I went through my whole sequence now. So if I'm getting my right-hand lady, what if I said the centers, well, let's go through the double pass-through peel-off thing, okay? Double pass-through, peel-off, pass through. If I do the 3/4 tag, I should be coming to my partner, who is going to be the who lady? My right-hand lady, because that's my module, 3/4 tag. But what if I just adjust it and say half tag? You see, now I can do a right and left grand, and now I've got all kinds of modules I can build upon the other module that I started with. Okay? Swing your girl, promenade home. That was with a right-hand lady, wasn't it? Good. 4 ladies chain 3/4, and you're going to get who? Corner. I'm going to set up my Dixie Grand thing. Heads pass through, separate, stand behind the others. If I do Dixie Grand and I go right, left, right, Alaman left, when I'm coming back, I'm getting my opposite lady. I mean, my corner lady, because I started with the corner. So what if I call this? What if I say the Dixie Grand, but start with your left? Left Dixie Grand, left, right, look who's coming, Alaman left. Promenade home. All because of building on one little sequence. So we haven't done the opposite lady Dixie Grand thing. 4 ladies chain across. Will it make much difference if I say sides pass through and clover leaf? Will that make any difference? No. Sides pass through, clover leaf. If I do the Dixie Grand, I know I'm going to be able to Alaman left, but I'll be doing the Alaman left with my original right-hand lady. And then if I do right and left grand, I'm going to get the opposite one, because that's the one I set it up with. So on the third hand, I stop when I meet my partner. Are you following me, gang? All right, here we go. Dixie Grand. Right, left, right. Here is my right-hand lady, Alaman left with her. Do a right and left grand, but on the third hand, promenade home. It don't take a whole lot of rocket science to get it figured out. Now I'm going to try this one, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jerry. 4 ladies chain 3/4. Sides pass through. Clover leaf. Remember the double pass-through thing? That was the Dixie Grand Lac. We did a double pass-through, peel off, pass through. My get-outs before was a 3/4 tag to a right and left grand. It was a half tag depending on who I started with. What if you did a full tag the line? Will that work or not? Let's check it out. Full tag the line. I can't do right and left grand from here, can I? But if I just have the leaders do what? Partner trade, do a right and left grand. So it's all keeping track of where the ladies are and who you're going to get and who you start with. Promenade home. So that was just one little module, which was the Dixie Grand. Start with basic things, add to it. The second page of mine gives a lot more depth about other stations to start from. Okay? Jerry.
Thank you, Randy. Let's go back to that Dixie Grand line just a minute, and let's take a look at some other get-outs. The idea that I have, if I'm going to memorize a station like this Dixie Grand station, I'm going to memorize. Most of the memory is done up to that point. If I just put a little bit more in my memory, I can add 2 or 3 or 4 get-outs to that one station. So in other words, if I'm going to put it up there, I'm not going to just put it up there in my brain and clog up a hard drive space for one get-out. I want to have a bunch. Head star through, pass through, slide through, and reverse flutter. Now, this is our Dixie Grand line, and we know it is because the paired couple is on the right and the corner is in the same line. And as you're sight calling, you'll learn to see this. You may have to intentionally set it up just like I did. And you can do that many different ways by sight calling. You could have done a head star through, pass through, swing through, boy run, bend the line right and left through, and been the same place you are now. You could have done, and you can write your equivalents to that. This is our Dixie Grand line, and we can pass through, wheel and deal, and do a Dixie Grand. But there's also many others from here. Touch a quarter. Now, just untouch a quarter, because before you go, I want you to remember where you're at, because we're going to save time. We're going to keep coming back to this line right here, okay? Touch a quarter. Circulate 1.5. Girls trade and roll. Alaman left. Square your set. Go back to your right-hand lady line.
Dixie Grand line.
Your Dixie Grand line, yeah. Dixie Grand line. Cool. All right. Same thing now. That was one get out. Now I put that upstairs. I'm going to have me at least 2 more. And if I can get 3 or 4 more out of it, I'm going to get as many as, I'm going to milk it for all I can because it's already up there. I'm clogging up space. It doesn't take much more to have some more get outs that are very similar to that. Touch a quarter. Circulate 1.5. Now, before I did girls trade and roll. Well, let's just have the girls trade and spread apart. Now, in advanced, we could call hourglass circulate, but let's don't do that. Let's have and I could right here say, boys, you turn back right and left grand, couldn't I? That's another one then. Boys diamond circulate. Girls box circulate. Then I could say, boys, you turn back right and left grand, couldn't I? Don't do it. Stay there. And it doesn't matter how many times you do this. Now, if I wanted to do an Alaman left get out, then I would have the girls do their big box circulate through the boys' diamond first because of the way the terminology comes out. It would sound like this. Girls box circulate twice. Boys diamond circulate twice. Man, you get them going. They're inner monks. They don't know where they're at. Girls do a U-turn back. Alaman left. Spin the top. Turn right. The reason I'm doing that is because they resolved at the stirred quadrant. Spin it, move it up, boys, slide through it home. So by recognizing where you're at, and this is a term that we're coining now, instead of using the term sight calling, we're using the term recognized calling. It's more descriptive. It's not sight calling. There was no sight calling really there. That's just recognized calling. If you recognize that phaser and you've got some get outs from there memorized, then you are way ahead of the game as far as controlling your choreography. Dixie Grand line.
Can I make a comment?
Yep.
Notice every time he's got these people back to a Dixie Grand line. What was I doing? Dixie Grand what? Boxes or columns. Like a starting double pass-through setup. Same thing though.
All right. let's expand on this Dixie Grand line a little bit. Pass through, wheel and deal, and we all know that we can do a Dixie Grand right here. Well, can you imagine if the centers were to do a half sachet, would that really make any difference? Undo what you just did. Here's a nice little an equivalent module for half sachet. Centers square through. On your third hand, box the gnat. Same thing as half sachet. All right? Now do a Dixie Grand. Right, same sex left. Right pull by your partner. Same sex, Alaman left. Come back to your partner. Do a mixed up grand. Some are going right, some are going wrong. When you meet your partner on the other side, spin the top, turn over the right. Boys and girls star left, the others move around. When you meet your partner, the sides face in, the heads slide through, and everybody celebrate. These are the kind of things that you build on as you build your repertoire of get-outs. And I guarantee you, not too many people are just going to sight call that. Boom. They're going to have to go through some process of setting that up. Okay? One thing I want to show you, and I want to come down on the floor. Go to your Dixie Grand line. And chain the ladies for me, please. This is what we would consider a primary right-hand lady phaser. And the reason we consider it a primary is because everybody has their
right-hand lady.
Correct. Now chain the ladies across. Now, really nothing's changed. All the components of a right-hand lady phaser are still here, aren't they? But we wouldn't consider this a primary right-hand lady station. Why? Not everybody has their right-hand lady, but all the components of that right-hand lady phaser are there. Now, this is the neat part. When you have a primary, then there's only one phaser available to you. When you have a paired couple somewhere like this, and you know that you're in a right-hand lady phaser here, I want you to now look this way. Look at this. What kind of a phaser is this? Corner phaser. So anytime you see two people paired, a couple paired on each side, then you know that there's going to be two phasers there. So if I wanted to work with a right-hand lady phaser, I would work with these guys. If I wanted to go back to a corner real quick, pass through, wheel and deal, and the centers wheel around. And I can work with my corner. Oh, nope, I want to go back to my right-hand lady. Pass through, trade by. Let's get back over there. Swing through. Boy run. Bend the line. Right and left through, and I brought him right back to a what?
Dixie Grand.
Right back to the Dixie Grand setup. Okay?
Called all that choreography for a purpose, not just to be calling junk.
Square your sets. So now we've worked with the right-hand lady some. The opposite lady seems to be the most difficult. John thinks the right-hand lady is. I think the opposite lady is because when you're in a primary opposite lady phaser, there's no pairings. And as you're sight calling, and you're really things, you know how quick things come by you. Well, it's fast, isn't it? The dancers are flying around out there. It's hard to spot that line. I want to show you an easy way to spot it, all right? Let's have all four ladies chain. And for good body flow, heads go up and back. Lead right and circle to a line. Okay, everybody has their, but this is the one that's hard to see. If you look on diagonals, you can find partner pairings. That's one way you can tell if it's a opposite lady phaser. Yeah? If you look at the square and you say, good Lord, nobody has partner anywhere. Boom, 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 boom. Well, by process of elimination, then it has to be a what? Opposite lady. Here's an easier way to spot it. Ladies chain. This is a great line here. This is the one you see all the time as we're calling. And I call it, I have his girl, he has mine. The girls are transposed. And this is something that you can see readily. This isn't rocket science here. This comes flying by probably 100 times a night as we're calling. As sight callers, we're not trained to look at that. We don't look at that. We're concentrating on calling until we accidentally pair somebody up, and then Ferris wheel, and if they're in the middle, we zoom, and then it's either, that's what we do as sight callers. And that's what we're trying to go past with this here. Now, from this station right here, there's plenty of get-outs. Chain the ladies back. From here, there's get-outs. Does anybody know a get-out for a 8-chain 3 to an out-of-man left? It's a great get-out. This is the station. This is the phaser where it starts from. It starts in an out-of-sequence line with your opposite lady, and I notice that we are now in sequence. So somehow I got to get them out right and left through.
Wow.
Slide through, and here's your get-out. 8-chain 3.
Could that be Dixie Grand?
Out-of-man left.
No, it's not Dixie Grand. It was an 8-chain 3, Randy.
All right, let's have the heads lead left, please. Veer right. Boys trade, and the couples circulate. Cool. Bend the line of 4. Once again, what do we have here? I have his girl, he has my girl. This is how you recognize this very quickly, on the fly while you're calling. It's a very recognizable situation here. Now, what did we say? Chain the ladies across. This would be a primary opposite. There's only one phaser out there on the floor, correct? Chain the ladies, and what did I just tell you? Please chain them back. Now, there's going to be 2 phasers out there. This being my opposite, this being a partner phaser. All the components of a partner phaser are here. So if I wanted to do a get out of an opposite lady phaser, I would work with these guys. If I wanted to do a get out from a partner phaser, I would then work with these guys. It's just now that you know these things, when you start calling, we hope that you will see them and say, I don't have to go to all that work of going all the way back to a 0 box or a 0 line, and then all the way back for the get out. And you know what I see happen most of the time? I see sight callers take the dancers all the way back, and they fish and they hunt and they peck until they finally get them back to a 0 line or a 0 box, only to do their get out, which takes them all the way back where they started. And if they had learned to recognize these stations, they wouldn't have had to go all the way back and then all the way back and then do the get out. They could have done the get out when? All they were there. So from this line, there's lots of get outs from here. To how about a left Dixie Grand? To a right and left Grand. This is the setup. But to do that, I need a half sachet deal. So I'm going to do an equivalent now to a half sachet. Pass through. Tag the line. Phase in. What did I do? Nothing but a half sachet. Pass through. Wheel and deal. Can you see it coming? Left Dixie Grand. Left, right, left, grand, right, and left. Now, I don't think sight callers are going to do that unless they're very, very good. And I do know some that can. By and large, we can't. You have to know the station and set it up in that fashion. If you would, please, square your set. Okay. All right, let's take another example. The get out, let's say, is circulate once and a half, slide through, and you're home. That's the get out that we want to do. There's a little bit more to CRaMS that we like to teach, and it's the part of the meat. What do we call when we get to that phaser? Are we just going to go there and do the get out? Probably not. We're going to probably want to go there and dance a little bit. One of the questions that I get most frequently from callers is, how do I stay, they think it ties their hands. They say, you're taking my freedom away. How can I still have the freedom that I had with sight calling? You're constraining me. And my answer to them is, have you ever heard of theming? And usually they say, not really. And so we go into theming, and that's where you're going to get this good stuff. You can do anything. If you want to work on anything you want to, use it as a theme, and then go on to another quadrant and do the same theme, because you don't want to stay in one little box all the time. And then maybe move to another quadrant if you have to, and do the theme, and then get out. This lets the dancers have a feel of dancing all over the floor. And then when you do get a get out, you called with a purpose, and it makes the whole thing a lot more exciting for the dancers. So if we're going to do a get out, circulate once and a half to a right and left grand, the first thing we have to do is realize that the geographic spot on the floor that starts from. Slide through. Excuse me. Well, they'll both work. You can box the net and right and left grand when we get there. Okay. We'll go into other get outs. From here, we're going to use the theme as cross run. Now, I like to use calls that other people don't use. Other callers use cross run with the centers doing it all the time. So my mind works, well, I want to do something different. How about the ends cross running? So for just one little part, one little tip, I'll use the ends cross run for a theme, and I want to go to a couple different stations, and then I want to resolve, and I want to also set up that get out, which is circulate once and a half, slide through your home. All right? So if we start that out, let's have the heads make a left-hand start of your corner. I wish somebody shut that damn thing off.
It's outside the alleyway.
Is it? All right. Step to an ocean wave. Okay, now we're at the first quadrant, so we're going to start our theme. Swing through. Girls cross run. Boys, let them in. Now, if you don't say that, 9 times out of 10, the boys will stand there and make the girl go clear to the end. So that's one of those helpful things that if you can say it at the right time, your success rate out there is going to go way up. If you're late, it ain't going to work. So be careful of that. Girls, run. Bend the line. Who does everybody have? All right, and we did our theme, didn't we? Past the ocean. We're right back to where we started, aren't we? And we said that this get out starts in a specific geographical location on the floor. And that spot happens to be half stirred. The square has to be rotated half. So everybody circulate twice. And what did that accomplish?
You're half stirred.
Now I'm half stirred, okay? I'm there where I want to be for the get out, but I want to do my theme once more, okay? So let's swing through. Girls cross run. Come on, boys, let them in. Girls run around the boys. Bend the line. Past the ocean. And I'm back to a... Right. Circulate once and a half. Here comes our get out. Slide through. And you're home. Okay? Now, you could have not stirred it half. Head step to the center and step to a wave. Face your corner first. Excuse me. Now, step to a wave. If you want to start it from here, that's fine. Circulate once and a half. Box the net. Right and left grand. So the get outs are still there if you want to do a right and left grand. If you want to make it at home, then you have to start by what? Rotating the square half. All right? All right, let's say that this time the get out is going to be from a right-hand lady phaser, and it's going to be the get out that Randy and I learned in about 1968 or 69, which was square through 4, right to the partner, pull her by, or square through 2, one or the other, right to the partner, pull her by. Let's make the theme scoot back once and a half. You know why Jerry likes scoot back once and a half?
Nobody calls it.
Because nobody calls it. I've made a living calling things that nobody else calls. And if you want to be different, investigate that. It's a powerful tool. It's on the mainstream program. Fractions are okay. So we're all right. Let's start off with We all need a right-hand lady arrangement. So let's have the head square through 2. And whom are we looking at? Right-hand lady. Now let's begin to insert the theme. Scoot, touch a quarter. Scoot back 1.5. Girls, your part's going to be a right-hand touch a quarter. What would have happened if I hadn't have said that? Boys, you're just going to get on the end of the line. If I hadn't have told the girls that, they would have probably tried to hinge with the boy. So it's very important that you tell them what you want, because chances are they're not going to know it. Now, a lot of callers would say, well, why didn't you just walk that before you danced it? I don't like to take the needle off and walk things unless I absolutely have to. To me, that just wastes valuable dance time. Not when I can tell them what to do in English. Now, if I was in Japan or somewhere that's not the native language, I might not be able to get away with that so well. I might have to take and stop and actually take the music off and workshop it. Bend the line and reverse flutter. What did I do? I went and picked up my right-hand lady again, didn't I? So this would be a what? A primary right-hand lady phaser. Yep, and we just started with our theme, and now we've done it in that quadrant. We want to move on to another quadrant. Pass through, tag the line, face out, bend the line. I'm in a new quadrant, right? Slide through, touch a quarter, scoot back 1.5. Girls, don't forget your part's a right-hand touch a quarter. Get over there. Boys, get on the end of the line. Bend the line, reverse flutter. And I've got my right-hand lady back again. I want to go to the third quadrant. This is quick stuff. If I was actually calling, I probably haven't called more than 15 or 20 seconds at this point. It's get them in, get them going, and get them out. Now I'm going to move on to one more quadrant. Pass through, wheel and deal. Centers, wheel around, face the couple behind you. I'm in my third quadrant, right? Touch a quarter. Scoot back 1.5. Girls, I'm not going to tell you this time it's a right-hand touch a quarter. Bend the line, and okay, we've done our job. That's a good tip. It had a good theme. We did it in 3 different quadrants. It's time to get out. Now, all this time, I've not went away from my right-hand lady. But the dancers don't know that because it feels like they've been going all over the place. They have no clue that I've only been one step away from her this entire section of this tip. The dancers just do not know. So now all I got to do is look to see whether it's going to be a 2 or a 4. Remember, the get out was that square through, right to your partner, pull her by element left. So all I got to do is look to see if it's a 4 or a 2. If the ends are the ones that's looking at their partner, then I know that it's a 4. Do a right and left through for me, please. If the centers would have ended looking at their partner, and I know I'm in a right-hand lady phaser, and this is the beauty of this. When you're in right-hand lady phasers like this, you don't have to worry about sequence. Sequence at this point becomes totally irrelevant. The reason it becomes totally irrelevant is because all I know is if I leave the paired couple here and send these guys back across the street, I can element left. I don't care about sequence. All I care about is they're at their right-hand lady station. If I leave the paired couple here and send the other ones across the street, I can element left. So sequence doesn't matter to me. Square through 2. Right to the partner, pull her by. I got him coming across. Element left. Promenade home.
Indirectly, he's worrying about sequence still, even though he's saying it. I think indirectly he's still thinking about sequence, except that he doesn't go physically into his mind. He says, okay, I see that paired couple looking at their partner. He knows it's 2 or 4.
Well, let's see. We got time. Let's see if we can get one more. Y'all getting tired? Somebody asked me if I'd do this one, and I will. It's this one starts in a right-hand lady phaser in a half-stirred geographic spot on the floor. So let's have the sides right and left through, and the heads, just to save time, pair off, face your corner. What did I just set up? Right-hand lady phaser, half-stirred, right? Yep. Step to a wave. Girls trade and swing through. That's the only two things I had to remember to set up that get out. And everybody tells me, oh, you got to remember so much. 2 calls? That's all I got to remember. Everybody circulate once in a quarter. Face in. This is really simple, but it's not easy. But it's really simple. If you start looking and say, gee, it really is. It's basically simple. Let's have the heads, okay, just a minute. The get out's going to be circulate once and a half, right and left granny. We already did that one, didn't we? We already did. Yep, go ahead. I think I'm just about finished.
Do a heads pair off. You're looking at your corner, so there you are at the corner. Star through, pass through, do U-turn back. Here is a half line. We call it a half line because everyone is what? Half size shade. It's a corner because everybody has their corner. I have a get out for that every time. All I got to do is worry, am I in or out of sequence? Square through 2. Hallelujah. Right and left grand. Don't do it. Square your set. Heads pair off. Touch a quarter. Lady run. So instead of the 4 major lines we were talking about, now this is like the next 6 months later, you're applying some of this phaser type stuff that is in a half line. You still have your corner beside you. Remember what he said about the 2 or 4 and not to worry about the sequence? All right. Look at what we have here. If the last one worked when it was out of sequence with a square through 2, this one should work with a 4, square through 4. Is the hand still going to work good? Am I still going to be able to do a right and left grand? Yep. Square your set. Okay. Just a couple of little more.
What you want to do, we've given you a lot of get outs. The page that I gave you on relationships, make sure you understand that on each one of those as you go down is all 4 of the primary stations, and you've got 2 setups and 2 get outs for every one of them. My recommendation for those of you that want to dive into this and start working on it, number 1, take your time. There's no hurry on this thing. My recommendation would be to take that document there that says relationships, and there's 2 get-ins and 2 get-outs written down from all 4 stations. So if you'll take those and use those first, read them, set them up when you get home with your dancers. And after you do that several times, it's gonna finally be part of your long-term memory, and you'll use that forever. Then I didn't think I could remember all this stuff either, but if I didn't use it, of course I would lose it. Isn't that the rule? So take those get-outs and get-ins that we gave you and apply those first, and then you can start working towards going on to advanced CRaMS, which we can explain to you at a later time.
One other little thing that'll help you as you practice your CRaMS is to hand out these bibs to the dancers as they come in.
1, 2. This, and if you want to learn more about CRaMS, then come to our caller school in October, the Pride Caller School, because we work on it some more down there. How about a nice hand for the dancers? Thank you very much, guys. Just a little bit more information about it that we don't think about, and those of us that are sight callers and have been for a long time, just lay the pennies right here on the table, if you would, please, and I'll get them later. Is we haven't paid that much attention as to who is where. If everybody has the right-hand lady for a partner, who's in the corner position? If everybody has the right-hand lady for a partner, who's in the corner position? If everybody has the opposite lady for a partner, who's in the corner position? Can't be anybody else. Now, if you've got your partner in a zero line and you want to face your corner, what is the magic module that we use to get there? A zero line, and I want to go to a zero box. Touch a quarter, circulate, boy, run. And I'm looking right at my, can't be anybody else. All right, I've got my right-hand lady in a line, and we're in sequence. And I want to look at my partner. What do I call? The very same thing. Touch a quarter, circulate, boy, run, and I'm looking right at my partner. Can't be anybody else. That's the thing that we don't pay any attention to. We don't pay enough attention to that. If I've got my corner for a partner, who's in the corner position? If I've got my corner for a partner, who's in the right-hand lady position? Your partner. If you've got your corner for a partner, who's in the opposite position?
Can I ask one more question, John?
Yeah.
This is for the advanced crammers. Heads pass through, separate round one. Who's everybody got for partner?
Same sex.
Same sex. That's advanced CRaMS. Number 4 guy has who for a partner? Number 1 guy. Who's the next lady in the middle of that line? She's the number 3 lady. She's got who for a partner?
Number 4 lady.
4 lady. Once you start recognizing those things, I got hundreds of get outs for those. Yeah. The thing that we haven't been able to touch on with a whole lot of depth is how this man never makes a mistake because he knows the geography of the square so well. He knows where he's got to be to start to end up at home or to stir the bucket at the end of the tip. And that's a whole nother course in CRaMS.
It don't happen overnight. And you have to put some effort into it. You have to get your dolls or your checkers out. Justin plays with dolls. His mother told me. Anyway, you've got to get your dolls or your checkers and you've got to go to work. You can't totally rely on computer programs to teach you all of this. It won't do it because they haven't been written in that regard yet. Somebody may write one. We're not going to say. Has anybody in here been using any part of CRaMS? I know, Scott, you said you did. What's it doing for you? Anybody want to comment on what it has done for you? Mike?
Mike Hoke. It's got me out of a lot of situations. How many of you start calling and 3 or 4 tips in, or calls in, you realize you forgot to look and see who corners were in the first place? Well, you know, I've always been guilty of that, and I'll go, okay, what did I call? And if I think about it hard enough, I can figure out I got them across the street. And if I bring them back, then I'll bring them all the way back to the other side. And, you know, if I start heads pass the ocean, extend, recycle, sweep a quarter, right, whatever, all of a sudden I realize, well, I took my primary head man, I put him over in that what I would call my right-hand quadrant, but I don't know who his corner is. So I got to figure out, oh my gosh, I got to put you back with your opposite lady, and I got to take you to the other side of the square. And when I get you there, I better pay attention and figure out who your corner is, because that's the first time that I get to look and see her. And while I've got a long way, I figured out that I've got a long ways to go before I get this all down. I have figured out that I don't need to know who she is, because I've got them in a right-hand lady box or a right-hand lady station, and I call a few things and I get them out and promenade them home, and then I look and see who my corners are.
And it does not matter who these people are because you knew where they were.
And then you continue calling aimlessly with no format.
I have a Scott Byers, Sacramento, California. I have a very bad habit. When I'm sick, I can't sight worth beans. So when I'm sick, I can just close my eyes and I can call. And with CRaMS, I can resolve and not have a problem. But if I'm sick or I'm not feeling well or I'm angry over something, I forget to write my sights down, or I forget to, that kind of thing. So I'll do that, but it takes a little bit of time to learn to do that. I have to do it a little at a time. I'm up to about 3 tips a night to do that. So
and the reason why I think Jerry had such a great name with the CRaMS is because all these methods of calling are kind of crammed into one. And what he just said, that he closes his eyes and call, he's using mental imagery. He's doing a little bit of mental imagery. Elmer has a comment.
Okay.
I remember he was here last year.
We're going to have to shut down pretty quick.
Hey, I'm Elmer Sheffield, and I just want to say I came last year to this session, and I've been site calling for 30 years or so. I'm really not that old, but anyway, I was so impressed with it till I picked up the 2 sheets that Jerry had last year, and I came back this year. I'm now ready to pick up the second sheet and look at it.
Thank you. And all of this information is on Jerry's website, jerrystory.com. And if you didn't get a handout, then you can pick it up there. I don't know whether Randy's information may not be on there, but
if they drop me an email, I'll be glad to send it to him.
We make sure you get it to you, because we had no idea how many people would be in this meeting, and the office didn't, so that's why we ran a little bit short on handouts. But have some fun with it. That's what's neat about it. Those of us that have been calling for a very long time, it's given us something else to think about. We're rethinking things that we forgot about a long time ago. And thanks to Jerry's bringing it back to where we can start looking at it, it will enhance your calling. I can promise you that. We don't care whether you call it CRaMS or go jump in the lake. Call it anything you want to, but just start using something besides plain sight calling to enhance your calling, and start knowing where you are and who you're dancing with. Relationship is the thing that we haven't worked on nearly enough. Any other questions or comments from anybody? Thank you, panelists, and thank you all for attending. We appreciate it.